Alright, Chet Baker sings. What a do vinyl community. My name is Brian, that's Brian, and welcome to, I guess I would say, another installment or addition to this looking at. If you clicked on the video, it's because you guys might have seen that I put Chet Baker sings, and that is what I'm going to be looking at today. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you've been watching, welcome back. And in my last video where I showed some of the records that I got while I was gone, like this vacation online purchases, Blue Note, I think around July, probably June, they announced that the Chet Baker Sings Tone Poet was back in stock, and I had to get it because it was like one of, if not the top record that I wanted and missed out. So yeah, this is what I'm talking about today. But not only am I going to be talking about this particular record, the Tone Poet of Chet Baker, I'm also going to be talking about the 1956 Pacific Jazz pressing of Chet Baker Sings. This is what I would consider the first OG because it includes other tracks. But before I get into that, I'm gonna be talking about this one as well, and I'm gonna talking about this Chet Baker Sings 10-inch. I believe this is 1954. So before this one had come out, we had this 10-inch, and I know there's a 7-inch EP that came out around the same time period, maybe like a year later or so. But unfortunately, I don't have that, so I'm just gonna be talking about these three. Where's the other one? These three records right here. Chet Baker Sings, Chet Baker Sings. Okay, Chet Baker Sings 1954, Chet Baker Sings 1956, and the 2023 repress of Chet Baker Sings by Blue Note. So, by the way, this is one of the records that I got as well. Actually, no, not. I think by the time I had come back from my trip, I had already purchased this. So, anyways, let's talk about Chet Baker Sings the Tone Poet. If you're not familiar with the Tone Poet series by Blue Note, they do an excellent job. They do this like Stoughton like tip-on jacket. Most of them are gatefolds. Some of them are just standard but heavy, thick jackets. For this matter, and I don't know if they I don't think they've done this for the other Pacific Jazz. I could be wrong, but for this one, this was one of the earlier Tone Poets that they released back in 2019 or 2020. What I like about the presentation on the Tone Poet is the session photos, of course, that comes with most of the Tone Poet releases. So they provided two session photos, one from 1954 and one from 1956. There were two sessions, and I'll get into that in a bit. There's two sessions that took place for Chet Baker Sings. Excellent presentation done by the Blue Note peeps, and very satisfied with how my copy arrived. No seam splits or nothing, so very happy. The lineup here. So you have Chet Baker on vocal and trumpet, Russ Freeman on piano and Celeste, James Bond or Jimmy Bond on bass, Peter Littman on drums, and Lawrence Marable on drums as well. Chet Baker Sings, if you're not familiar with this record, you're missing out, because Chet Baker has this beautiful vocal sound and his trumpet playing as well for the session, and his like 50s and maybe early 60s recordings before his voice changed. And I'd say the presentation here is really, really, really nice. Nice thick cover compared to my 1956 pressing. As you can see here, there is some, well, there it's all yellow and all white here. This is supposed to be, the cover here has yellowed, and there are some, these are the differences to start with. The next difference that I've noticed from all this is on the 1956 record. There are there are timestamps of each track, and as you can see on each of them, you have 2 minutes and 59 seconds, 4:17, and so forth. The repress doesn't have that, and I'm going to be going into that in a bit. But another noticeable difference is that the 1956 label is different from the Tone Poet reissue, as you can see right here. Well, it's upside down, but this one says Pacific Jazz. And if you're already familiar with the Tone Poet, they use the World Pacific labels, and so technically they use the okay, technically they used, for the Tone Poet reissue, they used the 1956 cover, but they used the I think the repress or the reissue after 1956 is the World Pacific Jazz, which I think might have came out in 1958. But what I'm trying to say is that for the Tone Poet, they used the 1956 cover replication, but used the 1958 World Pacific. And so not exactly the same, and that's fine, because they're not really going for like exact what am I trying to say here, like exactly the same thing. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Anyways, moving on to the music. I'm going to be talking about the 10-inch later. I'm not forgetting about the 10-inch. So I've written down I've written down what I noticed between these copies, and so here we go. For the Tone Poet, it starts off with the tune, and here it is, That Old Feeling. That Old Feeling is a super nice tune that's like, it starts off with the trumpet and the rest of the group, but Chet Baker starts out with this I wouldn't say solo, but it's like his intro, and it's super nice. It's a great way. It's like I'm glad that they used That Old Feeling as the intro to this album. But anyways, the Tone Poet for That Old Feeling, soft airbrushes for the drums. The drums do sound compressed throughout the Tone Poet. So I heard trumpet and piano on the right channel, and then bass on left channel. again, I can really hear the drums on here, and that's not really the point for this recording. You're really trying to hear Chet Baker's vocals and his trumpet sound. Um, so I had that for the OG. I called this the 1956 the OG because technically this is the first uh, a 12-inch pressing, though it is the a reissue of the 12-inch. This one includes additional tracks, and it's more known. I'd say, right? Because yeah. So the um, that old feeling on the 1956 sounded much more natural, and you're going to be hearing that a lot, much more natural on this pressing, and so yeah, that old feeling. Starting off with that old feeling, right? Next up, these next two tracks are the ones that you hear the biggest differences. Not because of, well, yes, because of the different uh stage, right? But I'm talking about the music. So on It's Always You for this pressing. Now, this could also happen in the 1958, the one after the one on World Pacific. Um, some of the tracks on this one particularly have what am I trying to say? The tunes on are longer, and so I'm gonna move on to It's Always You. For this one, the 1956, the runtime um for It's Always You is 4 minutes and 17 seconds. Now, the runtime for, let's say, the Tone Poet is 3 minutes and 30 seconds. The 1956 pressing, it starts off with this with piano intro by Russ Freeman, and so there's this I'm gonna read what I have here on the notes. Um, the piano intro to me sounds a bit quieter than the one on the Tone Poet. The Tone Poet one sounded much better. It sounded louder and more present. Maybe what I was trying to say is that it sounded a bit louder than what was heard on this 1956 copy. Chet vocals on here sounds much clearer and right in front of you, and that's what I heard throughout the Tone Poet. But anyways, the big difference on here again, like I said, for It's Always You, right after Chet Baker's trumpet solo, it goes to this um, it goes to the piano playing, and then it goes back to Chet singing. In this copy, uh, right after Chet's solo, there is an extra solo done by Russ Freeman on the piano, and it goes on. And then that solo by Russ Freeman is what smoothly transitions to what you hear on the Tone Poet right before Chet starts to sing again. So when I first got this, I've had this copy for a while now, but when I first listened to this, I was blown away because not only have I not ever heard the full tune, I was just like, man, what is there to come for this, you know, for the rest of this recording? And right after It's Always You, you have Like Someone in Love. Like Someone in Love on this 1956 pressing The runtime for the OG is 3 minutes and 26 seconds. The one on the Tone Poet is, let's see, 2 minutes and 21 seconds. So there is almost a minute difference here. And the reason being is because at the very beginning, when you hear Russ Freeman play the piano, um, on here, on this one, he does a short intro, right? And then it cuts to Chad Baker singing. On this one right here, there is a much more extended version of him playing. It goes on for, like I said, I mean, the runtime is like a minute, right? So that extra time that's on here is because of Russ Freeman's full intro, is what I'm trying to say. So there's more, um, there's a larger intro here before Chet starts playing on like Someone in Love. And like I said, I love this intro, but I've always been used to to this one right here, because online, if you stream this music online, this album, you're gonna be getting what's on the Tone Poet. And so every time I spin this 1956 pressing, I'm always, I'm always looking forward to it. And anyways, A3, which is what again, like Someone in Love. For this pressing, I said the band sounded more present, and not just the piano and bass. For the Tone Poet, the piano slash bass also sound present, and um what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, Chet's vocals just sound so much present on here. Whenever I go to this one, I think, man, is the Tone Poet even gonna beat this? And then I then I put this back, and I'm like, wow, his voice is just louder and clearer on here. And yeah, so the next one we have My Ideal. My Ideal on the Tone Poet sounds good, but I think there's a bit of unbalance with the musicians on this track. And however, this pressing does a good job with presenting the musicians when it's their turn to solo. When it's all of them playing together, it's kind of, I kind of get distracted. Like I'm like, who am I supposed to listen to here? I know I'm supposed to listen to the whole band when they're playing, but sometimes I just have a hard time sometimes listening to what I'm looking for. And for this tune right here, My Ideal, this happens for the Tone Poet. Now, the 1956, what I say, uh, sounds more present with the band. The the band sounds more balanced. Is that right? I don't. The Everything sounds like better on this tune, on this pressing. And same happens to the following track, which is I've Never Been in Love Before. Uh, right, so I've Never Been in Love Before is super nice um, tune on here. Now I'm realizing it could be that My Ideal and I've Never Been in Love Before are much like a slower tune. The musicians on here are more relaxed, I would say, on these tunes, My Ideal and I've Never Been in Love Before. Um, and yeah, so that's what I had to say about that. The A6, which is My Buddy, my buddy on the Tone Poet. I guess let me get started with the 1956. 1956, last tune on each side. There's these huge differences that you notice when you spin this copy with in comparison to the Tone Poet. So let me get started with that. Um, with my buddy. My buddy is where you hear a difference between the piano. The piano just does not sound natural on here, on on this last track. Uh, how would I say it? It sounds worn out. I don't even know if that's the correct term, but it just sounds like the piano doesn't sound natural. I mean, when you put on the Tone Poet sounds a lot better than the OG copy on the last track, is what I'm comparing here right now. And so I've always before purchasing before purchasing any of these copies, I've always been familiar with the music because of streaming it. Um, I have been listening to this record since high school, since junior year of high school, when one of my friends introduced me to Chet, and so I'm very familiar with everything on here. I know like each track by heart, and so when I hear the 1956, it just does not sound. It does not sound with what I'm familiar with. When I put on the Tone Poet, it sounds exactly what I've always heard from streaming uh, this this tune. So the winner for obviously the last track has to be the Tone Poet, and yeah. So that's what I said for the last track on side one. Side two. Let's get started with side two. Uh, the material on side two. So this is where I'm gonna include or start talking about the 10-inch, the 1954 10-inch. The 1954 10-inch is pretty much the stuff that's on side two. So what's on side two of 12-inch is what's on here. Hope that made sense. But yeah, I was able to find a copy, a pretty clean copy of Chet Baker Sing's 10-inch on eBay for a pretty good price, I would say. It's hard to find a copy online for a good price, so I'm pretty sure I got a good deal on this. But anyways, so yeah, I'm gonna be including some of the stuff that I mentioned, what I listened to on here, as well as these two copies. So now let's do it. So I'm not really gonna get into the differences on every track for side two or this full 10-inch, but I will say the 10-inch the track listing is a bit different. not uh, by much, but I did notice that let's see. So after time on the 12-inch, after time, you have I Get Along With You Very Well. But on the 10-inch, time after time, right after time, you have My Funny Valentine. So I'm not sure what they why they changed the tracking the track order here, but and then after let's see, and then after My Funny Valentine on the 10-inch, there's I Fall in Love Too Easily. So this is what the fourth one, two, three, the fourth tune. I Fall in Love Too Easily. 1, 2, 3, 4. Um, on the 10-inch, the fourth tune on here is My Funny Valentine, and the third tune is I Get Along with You Very Well. So then you have the actually I could just do this. There Will Never Be Another You, and then after There Will Never Be Another You on the 10-inch is when they put I Get Along with You Very Well. So there are some a few differences here. And then the second to last tune on of the entire 10-inch is The Thrill Is Gone, which I think I like how they put The Thrill Is Gone after at the very end almost, because on the 12-inch The Thrill Is Gone is the third to last tune of the album. Anyways, the track listing is the track list the track listing is different, slightly different from what was released later on. But yeah, let's get started to the some of the stuff that I noticed. I'm not gonna, like I said, I'm not gonna go over everything, like go over every tune that I went over for side one. I do want to say, when it came to the sound, the sound on this 10-inch, it was right up there with the surprisingly with the Tone Poet. I mean, it sounded, for me at least, sounded louder than the 1956 pressing. Um, but yeah, the sound on the 10-inch I was not expecting it. I thought it was gonna be quiet, muddy, all of that, just because it's of how old the the recording is on here. And I really really enjoy the Chet's vocals on here as much as I do on here on the Tone Poet. But of course, this isn't the cleanest copy uh out there, so I will have to say, when I do if I had to choose which one I want to listen to more, it would be the Tone Poet. And so I did say here that earlier I did say that the last tune on each side just sounded very unnatural. So my comment on My Buddy, same thing goes with the last tune on here for side two on here, which is Look for the Silver Lining. Again, the piano, I don't know what happened on the 1956 pressing, but it just does not sound anything that I'm used to. And I think I don't know if there's a, like, I'd say a wearing effect on my pressing. If anyone else has a 1956 pressing of Chet Baker Sings, let me know how uh the last tune on each side sounds, because for me, both My Buddy and Look for the Silver Lining are just don't sound like what I'm used to hearing uh for all these years. On the Tone Poet, again, kudos to Blue Note for doing this right. It sounds just like what I've always um, heard of when I streamed this. From what I've heard all these years, you know, through streaming and such. When I put this on for the last tune, it was a complete shocker because I did not hear what I heard on the 12-inch 1956 pressing, and so it makes me more skeptical on maybe this is like a pressing defect on the 1956, because for me the Look for the Silver Lining sounds a lot like the one on the Tone Poet right here. And so where do I stand with all these three, you might ask? Well, despite somewhat bashing on this one because of how different it sounds and how uh you know how um just again very different compared to what I'm used to, I'm still gonna have to put the 10-inch third on my list. So overall, there's this like warm and natural feel to the OG. This is what I consider the OG. But the reissue also has this present feeling, this like presence, and you know, obviously there's this quietness that you just don't get from the OG. I will say I do have a pretty clean copy of Chet Baker Sings. You'll hear, you know, small pops here and there. At one point, while I was comparing, I had on the OG, and I thought I was listening um to the Tone Poet, and I was like, oh my god, why? This is how. This shows how like neck and neck. Well, maybe not neck and neck, but just how good the OG and the Tone Poet sound, and how clean this my pressing at least is. But like I said, third place goes to the 10-inch. The 10-inch, you know, it's loud, it's present, but the condition on this is just not it. I mean, yeah, it's probably seen better days, but I I just listening to just side two is kind of hard for me to uh not want to listen to side one, because I, like I said, been listening to Chet Baker Sings for years now, you know, 5-6 years now, and I'm just so used to listening to the whole album. So this is my reasoning to why the 10-inch is on is number 3 on the list. For number 2, this was very difficult for me because as much as I love the the Tone Poet, I gotta say that the OG 1956 has to be number 2 for me. Like I said, I love this because of how different it sounds compared to the Tone Poet and to the 10-inch. But you know, the Tone Poet comes in at number 1 for me because it's just a record that I'm more familiar with this particular pressing, and yeah, there's this airiness to this pressing that I noticed, but man, it sounds good no matter what. I think you know, the OG may sound good, but keep in mind these Pacific jazz recordings were notoriously known for the pops and crackle. And so, yeah, you'll hear pops and crackle on this one, not so much on this one, but still, it's not gonna be the quietest, cleanest record here. So, however, I do like, not like, I love the vintage feel. The atmosphere on here is it's just so fantastic. Um, I've cleaned all of these several times, and I still got the same result. So no matter how much you clean these records, there's gonna be some small flaws, I would say. So yeah, second place comes in the 1956. Uh, the the additional stuff that's on here, don't get me wrong, I love the hell out of this. But like I said, I gotta I gotta love what I've always been loving, what I know best, and that's the Chet Baker Sings Tone Poet Edition, and just overall the the packaging that's on here. I mean, it's kudos to Blue Note, seriously, for doing an excellent job. So there you have it. This might be a long video, short video, depending on how much editing I'm gonna have to do. But number 1, Chet Baker Tone Poet. Number 2, the 1956, and number 3, the 1954 OG. This is the OG, but this is the OG. If you stuck this far, thank you. Truly appreciate it. I am going to hopefully I did a good job with, or a semi-good job of this. But yeah, if you stuck around this far, truly appreciate it. Thank you so much. Comment down below if you already have a copy of Chet Baker Sings. And yeah, thanks for sticking around. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, and hope to see you guys in the next video. Take care.